6. All the engines were getting very suspicious about what was going on. Even little Thomas was getting worried. The engines held a special meeting in the yards the next morning. Disgraceful, stated Gordon. Disgusting, put in James. There was a long silence. Exactly, said Percy. No one here is to fill in Henry's role. We all miss him. Yes, said Edward, and I think we should do something about it. Apparently he hasn't even arrived from crew yet. Do you think there's a delay, or... I don't know, said Sir Topham Hatt, but it can't be good. I suggest you all finish your jobs and get a good night's rest for tomorrow's jobs. And Sir Topham Hatt walked away. And all the engines left the yard. That night, all the engines were resting at Tidmouth's sheds, except for Edward and Gordon. What's the matter, Edward? Asked Gordon. You seem a little anxious. I am. I smell trouble. I can feel it in my wheels. Well, what is it? I feel that this is an introduction to something else. Henry being gone. On the mainland especially. I'm going to look for him tomorrow night. Let me come with you, said Gordon. After all, you are pretty old. I can help you out. All right, said Edward, but you better stay close to me. I've been on there longer than you have. All right, said Gordon. The two engines agreed that they would set off tomorrow. The next morning, the two engines got started on their jobs early so they would have time to leave that evening. However, the two didn't leave that easily. Right as they were about to puff onto the Vickerstone rolling bridge, Sir Topham Hatt walked up. I'm sorry, said Sir Topham Hatt, but I can't let you two do this. Why? Asked the two engines. Well, it's simple. I don't want you two getting scrapped. You are two of my most valuable engines. But sir, said the engines, what about Henry? I will deal with him. I'm sorry, sir, said Edward, but we never leave an engine behind. Say what you will, but we're going, said Sir Topham Hatt. I didn't want to have to do this, but Donald and Douglas? Aye, said the twins, and out of nowhere the Scottish twins came in, buffered up, and pulled Edward and Gordon away to safety. No, you can't do this. We need to go back to get Henry. Sorry, Edward, but it's for your own good. And with that, Donald and Douglas puffed away. Sighed Edward. Now what? Psst, said a voice. Over here. Huh? Said Edward. Thomas and Percy. We were thinking of doing the exact same thing last night, but Sir Topham has caught us and put us on lockdown too. But our drivers and firemen are still here. You two can still go and save Henry. But no, said Gordon. But why? Asked Thomas and Percy. You two are both bigger and stronger than us. We just can't leave you behind, said Gordon. Actually, yes, said Edward. Oh, thank you for taking them. Thank you so much, said Thomas and Percy. No problem. Now, let's just make sure the coast is clear. The driver and firemen stepped out of the sheds to make sure Sir Topham Hatt nor any other engine was there. All right, said Edward and Gordon. Here we go. They puffed out of Tidmouth's sheds. The two crept along the line until they were at the bridge. They went over at the same time, gracefully glided over to the other side. They puffed through a tunnel and saw a sight that made them shudder. a gigantic scrapyard, and to the right was Henry. "Henry!" exclaimed Edward and Gordon. "You're all right." "Shh! Be quiet! He'll hear you." But it was too late. Around the bend came an engine that resembled Henry, but in the most hideous way possible. "My goodness," said Gordon. Who are you?" "Someone that you don't want to mess with. Trust me," said the engine. "Go," said Henry. "Quickly, too." "No," said Gordon, and he raced towards Henry. Was able to buffer up tender first, but the green engine crashed into Gordon. "Gordon!" "Run," said Gordon, "and get help, too." "I will," said Edward, and he raced away. He raced back to Sodor into the sheds and found James. "James," said Edward, "thank goodness you're here. I really need your help. Gordon and I went to..." "Calm down," said James. "Tell me slowly." "Okay. Gordon and I went to rescue Henry from the mainland." "You what? But please don't freak out," said Edward. "Sir Topham Hatt tried to stop us and almost put us on lockdown, but we were able to get out. But there was this green engine that resembled Henry so much." "Oh my. Well, in that case, let me come with you." "Oh yes, I was coming to get help. That's exactly what I was coming here for." "Let's go," said Edward. The two engines raced away. Edward and James raced over the Vicarstown rolling bridge, around the bend and into the scrapyard. Gordon and Henry were both on sidings, but they also noticed something. The engine that resembled Henry was on the ground. "Serves him right," said Edward and James. "Now let's get you two out of here," said Edward. Edward buffered up to Gordon, and James buffered up to Henry. And they all raced away to Sodor. But they heard something. They thought they heard someone say hello. "I'll go investigate," said Edward. And he puffed down the track. And much to Edward's surprise, he found someone very special. "Oh my, you're the Flying Scotsman, Gordon's brother." "I was. What happened?" "Years of abandonment has done this to me. The other railway doesn't care much for steam. They put me onto this damp siding and let me rest away. Well, this can't happen." "Aren't you the brother of Gordon?" "Yes, I am. Do you know where he is?" "He's actually just down the line. I've brought him here with me." "Oh, could you bring him to me?" "Yes, of course. I'll give you some of my coal and water." Edward did, and he led the Flying Scotsman down the line. "Here he is," said Edward. "My brother? Is that you?" "Flying Scotsman, where have you been?" "Here on the mainland." "Well, you need to come back with us." "Oh, yes, I will." And the long line of engines hurried to Sodor. It was early that morning next day, and Sir Topham Hatt was pacing the turntable at Tidmouth Sheds. Yawned Thomas. "Sir, relax. It's still early in the morning." "Shut up," said Sir Topham Hatt. "You two are the very reason why I am this anxious about the engines. You two gave them your drivers and firemen." "Well, sorry, sir," said Thomas. "Oh, it's all right. I hope you realize I'm doing this out of caringness. I do hope that they're okay." "I'm sure they're fine," said Thomas. Then they heard a line of familiar whistles, and into Tim's shed raced Edward, Flying Scotsman, Gordon, James, and Henry. "My goodness," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Where did you get the Flying Scotsman? And I won't even ask where you found Henry. I'm just glad he's all right." "Well, sir, British Railways didn't care much for Flying Scotsmen, and so they put him onto a siding." Well, this is his new home, said Sir Topham Hatt. Hooray, said all the engines, and Henry, I'm very glad you're all right. I am too, said Henry. The engines told Sir Topham Hatt about the stories with the scrapyard and the hideous Henry and everything else that happened. I'm very proud of you, said Sir Topham Hatt. No engine would be this brave other than one of my own engines, said Sir Topham Hatt, and he smiled proudly at Edward.